Hi everyone. Today I wanted to discuss with you something that I really enjoy exploring, and it's the connection between learning languages and learning how to code. I, over the years, have realized that my knowledge on language learning closely related to my approach to coding, and I often bring this idea up, but kind of feel like sometimes it hits a wall and people don't take the connection very seriously. So in this video I wanted to share with you guys my perspective and the reasoning behind the idea that if you can learn a new language, you can learn how to code. And vice versa, if you can code, you can learn a new language very easily. I'm really excited to get into this, but before I do, a little context about myself. I'm Rümeysa, I'm a 25-year-old software engineer, and I've been very interested in languages for as far as I can remember. I can speak a couple of languages, and let's get into it. So the first thing, I know that we don't often compare these two because they are viewed very differently from each other. Because coding is basically seen as logical, analytical, and for math brains. On the other hand, language learning is often viewed as emotional, expressive, and creative. On top of that, language learning has four main pillars. As we all know, it's reading, listening, writing, and speaking. But when it comes to coding, it's just only writing, because coding is writing code. But is that how we think, or is that the reality? As we said, we think we don't listen to code, we don't speak code, we just write code. But what I'm gonna say is that we actually do those four pillars, and I'm going to explain how. I know that everyone here has pulled up a YouTube video, a coding tutorial, listened to the flow of things, listened to the person who's writing the code, how he thinks, how she puts together this code, what's their thought process. I feel like listening is a big and important part of the taking input. Then we get to reading. Reading is much more understandable because we do read documentation. What I mean here is, on top of that, we observe code, we inspect codes, we open up open source codes on GitHub, and we see how things are done, how the structure is done, how the flow, how the order is done, what's the logic behind everything, and we read to understand that. We're taking in the input. Then we get to the writing part. Most of people think that the writing part is the final part, because if you can write code, and then we can code, but it's kind of different than that. Here's what I mean. When you're writing code, you can duplicate anything. You can take snippets from Stack Overflow or GitHub, open source codes, or anywhere else. You can put together a piece of code, you can copy forms, and you can make a project. But it's still not fluent. It's still not to the point that you know everything that is to be done to achieve something specific. You just understand what's done in a certain project or certain snippet, and you use that. But it's not as the same as producing your own product and getting creative. I think writing is an important part. It's a somewhat output part where you turn into all the inputs that you took into an output, and it's a very, very important step. But it's not as important as the last but not least part, the final part, speaking. You don't speak code. I know that, you know that. Speaking code in this context means that you build something from scratch without help, without template, without snippets, and anything else, with fluency. You think in code to produce your code, produce your own product. It's not like just understanding what every line in a code means. You understand the reason behind every line and understand if you need to use that as well or not. I kind of find it very similar to how people say, I can understand French, German, or English, but I can't speak it. I know what's going on in a movie, I know what people are talking about in a conversation, but I cannot join. I cannot express myself fluently. You know every word, you need to say. It's in there, it's in your brain, but if you're not producing them, forming the sentences in a certain order on the spot from scratch, you cannot just say, I know this language. It has to be whole, coding as well. You have to put together everything you know in a manner that it's fluent, and it takes craft, it takes creativity. It's the most important thing. I feel like I can go on and on about this, but I really want to make it short. So I really enjoy talking about this because I feel like a lot of different concepts have very similar things at their core. When we kind of hack into those things, we study smarter, not harder. If I contribute to anyone else's learning journey, whether it's coding or languages, I'd be very happy. So that's why I'm filming this video also. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you are learning something currently, because if you're not learning, you're not evolving. But thank you all for listening again, and hopefully I'll see you somewhere else on the internet. Bye.